Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Life with Lenoci. This is Mr. Michael Lenoci, and we have another fun episode. Because if you are a watcher on the YouTube, because that's how you watch it, on the YouTube. If you're a watcher, which is what we suggest, if you're a watcher, you're noticing a new look right now. Not permanently, we're just having fun. The living room episode. This is a living room episode. It's a little bit more relaxing. Maybe sometimes we'll do it in the daytime, so we'll have a little view in the background. But if you're listening, here's my voice. Here's my voice, and we're talking aloud. Aloud, out loud. You know when people say it quick, it sounds out loud. Aloud. Out loud. Okay, so let's just get into it. I got a lot of merch left, but I got a lot of shows coming up. So, it's called Regular Dick Energy merch, and I got them in pink and green. And if you are interested in it, you can purchase that through my website at michaellenoci.com, where you'll also notice a bunch of stand-up dates. And those stand-up dates include, but are not limited to, New York City, April 13th, at Stand Up New York, okay? Let's get those tickets, New Yorkers, okay? April 16th is in Philly at Helium. Let's get those tickets, Philadelphiaers, okay? And then we have Huntington Beach in Orange County. That is selling well at the Rec Room. Fort Lauderdale, Florida, May 23rd. It's on a Tuesday, a weird night. Guess what? It's selling so well, we're adding a second show, which will be May 21st on Sunday night. On a Monday night, I'm sorry. May 22nd. We're going to add a second show on the Monday night. So there will be two shows there. So if you were waiting because you couldn't get enough seats for your party, there's going to be a May 21st show. And then after that, we have San Francisco, which is also earlier in May. It's May 11th. It's a Thursday at the Valencia. Which I was recently just DM'd by a really woke person, whatever you want to call them. I don't. I believe it's a female, a she, he, or whatever she goes by. I don't know what her pronoun is, but one of my bits, I have a bit that went viral kind of on Instagram, not on TikTok, but it's the aggressive girl, and it starts off with me going, "Are you a man, she?" And I just said it, because it's not scripted. I just kind of riffed because when I'm doing crowd work, I'm just saying what comes to mind with no intent to hurt or do anything other than, I'm just trying to get a laugh. That's always my intention. My intention is always to get a laugh. And sometimes I don't. A lot of the time I don't when I'm riffing and saying things. And I think being a dick is funny. And sometimes I miss. And I'm fine with it. I say on stage, I go, okay, I miss. I said a girl was talking, and the clip picks up where I go, "Are you a man, she?" That's where it starts. And she goes, "No, I'm a regular she." And I go, "Huh." She goes, "So give me your number. Let's hang out after the show." It's that clip, and it's titled Aggressive Girl. And I say, "You're way too aggressive to be hot." And that's basically it. And everybody laughs. I go, nobody who's a 10 is offering a guy, to hang out that aggressively. And that's the gist of the clip. And it's me being a dick. When I said, "Are you a man, she?" I don't know why I said that. I might have said it because I thought, hey, for a woman, you're being aggressive like a man. So are you a man, she? Maybe that's why I said it. Point being, someone finally took that as a anti-transgender situation. So apparently, I guess they think I'm making fun of trans people and said they're going to try to cancel my show in San Francisco on May 11th in San Francisco at the Valencia because she knows the owner. Is this possible? I'm not worried. I don't care if it did happen. If it did happen, we could make a story about it. That would be more interesting, if anything. So I just want to give people light about that. So if you're in San Francisco, get your tickets at michaellenoci.com. Let's come out strong. so that I can DM her back and be like, hey, sorry you didn't get to cancel it, but a lot of people are showing up. Again, if you guys want some advice, if you guys want to do dating advice, we can do that again on Life with Lenoci. You can always email at lenoci.michael@gmail.com. Again, I'll do another episode with Mark soon. Scheduling conflicts. He was sick. I got back in town, but I'm here in LA for a few weeks, so I'll be doing local shows at the Laugh Factory and Improv and maybe some Long Beach shows as well if you're an LA person. Recently, I was talking to a younger comic, my buddy Anthony Storetti, and he's a hardworking comic, getting it after it, great smile, and I thought of something that I thought I would like to share for gonna have to edit this part out because I'm itching my balls. I thought I would like to share this part because two things that came to mind. There's another kid, Bryson Banks. He's a younger comic as well. And when I say younger, I don't mean by physical age. In terms, I talk about, hey, how old a comic is based off how long they've been doing it. So when I'm saying, hey, this comic's younger, it's how long they've been doing it. They could be my age. It could be a 38-year-old comic who's been doing comics 7 years is a younger comic to me. Okay, just to clarify that. So, that being said, both of these guys are younger than me. So, Anthony was, I kind of was just saying something to him that I wanted to get off on the podcast that I thought was kind of interesting. It's not advice for younger comics. I really don't know what it is other than I thought it was an interesting thing. A thought I had was that you got to understand in comedy as a stand-up comedian, you always are believing that you are better than you are. Okay? Where you're at mentally in stand-up comic, in comedy, in stand-up comic, where you are mentally in stand-up comedy is the best place you've ever been in stand-up comedy. So every time you get off stage, you believe you are the best version. You're more than ready to be where you need to be because you've experienced the best version of yourself. So you think that you've peaked. You think that you're going to continue to be that level of successful, not success where like accolades and booking things and selling tickets, but like you think you're just going to continue to write more jokes and build material, and you're going to be as funny as you already are at that level. Because you're like, well, how could I get funnier? I'm already as funny as I am. Okay? I think that's what a lot of people think. I don't know if everybody thinks that way, but I know I do. I just went back, and I'm going to go off a little bit, but like I just went back and I rewatched my set from Tempe Improv when I did Phoenix. Man, I was bombing. I was straight up bombing. But when I was up there, I didn't think I was, because it's a mentality I have that I'm never bombing on stage. I'll just have fun with whatever I'm having. But it could have also be the audio. But as I'm watching the set, I'm rewatching the set. I go, this isn't good. And for the first 20 minutes of an hour, I'm really digging myself a hole and trying to dig out of it. And maybe those first few rows were connected with me and I was having fun with them. But from the back of the room where my camera was, it does not sound like I am doing well or good at all. It sounds like I'm bombing. And I didn't have that mentality when I got off stage. I remember thinking, hey, that crowd was tight and it was weird. Because in Phoenix at Tempe Improv, I sold less than 100 tickets. It was a Wednesday night, spring break. I'm making excuses for myself, but either way, not bad for, what you have to do. Okay, so I sold less than 100. Okay, maybe there was like 80, maybe 70. I'm not positive what it was, somewhere around there. But there was like 200 people in the room because they paid for the room. So what happens in comedy is a lot of these guys will do the weekends all over the country. If you go on every single, and I'm getting off on another tangent, but if you go to every single comedy club's website across America in all the big cities, Seattle, Chicago, LA, New York, San Francisco, San Diego, Miami, Orlando, Atlanta, Charlotte, Nashville, wherever it is. Whoever is performing, they're going to draw people based off of maybe the way the club is promoting them with shows, with clips of their stand-up before the comic who's coming up on stage the weekend they have, whoever's there that weekend. Like, for instance, like let's say we're in Nashville and you're at Zany's, whoever's performing there that weekend, let's say it's a comic we don't know. It's comic A, and he's got 5 shows, and he does all right. He kind of like, some people know who he is, but most people live in a big city and there's something to do. They go to a comedy club. They're called walk-ups. You don't get that really in LA and New York as much because people are here specifically to see someone, right? A famous comedian. But in big cities, people go to comedy shows as something to do, as like dinner. So you'll get walk-ups. Also, people know the comedian. Before the comedian comes on, most comedy clubs will play a video before the show saying, hey, here's the house rules, no talking, no video recording, and here's some comedians coming to town soon. And then they'll post little clips, like 30-second clips of the next 4 weekends of comedians who are coming. Sometimes those clips can get people to be like, oh, I recognize this guy. I've seen his clips online. Let's come back and see him. That's one way of promoting. But a majority of these 52 weekends at these comedy clubs all over the country, I would say 20 of them, I would say 25 of them are selling out because everybody loves the comedian and they know who he is. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, okay, so there's 25 weekends of the 52 years where all 5 shows or 6 shows are probably sold out because they got a comedian with a fan base that's big in that market, and they're like, we got to go see this guy. We love him, and they don't really have to promote much, but they're selling out. The other 25 weekends or 27 weekends, they're booking comedians, some at my level, some younger than me, some older than me, that are good. They know they're funny, or they've been recommended that they're funny. They can do an hour. They're professionals, and they can somewhat draw a little bit, whether it's 20 tickets on Thursday, 40 on Friday, 60 on Saturday. There's 2 shows. Something that they can work with, and then they'll maybe use them and help them promote by having them do early morning radio. That's a thing of the past, but usually they'll have them go on the news and do and promote on the news. That's a common thing you'll see. You'll always see old clips of comedians on YouTube of like, hey, look how funny he was on the news. I think if you look up Tom Segura, before he was huge, he was promoting himself on the news. He would come up dressed like he was a rapper and fuck with the news anchors and make them believe that like it was a rapper and not a comedian. So he was like pranking them. I believe that's how it went down. You could look it up. Like, so that's what they'll do to help get people to the club for that weekend. But a lot of people just walk up because they're like, well, let's go to a show. So a lot of the rooms are papered. That's what they called. They called paper the room. Let's just get people. They'll email people who have bought tickets before, because usually when you buy tickets online, you're putting your email address. So they have a whole database of like, hey, these people bought tickets to see this comic, so they'll most likely like this comic, right? Because they're in the same camp of friends or whatever. They do podcasts. So they'll email those people and be like, hey, if you want to come to a show this weekend, we're giving 50% discount on tickets. They'll give discounted tickets as well. And then these people come out to the show, and that's on the club GM to kind of fill the room, because clubs make their money off of liquor. That's where they make all their money, off of liquor and food. They get 100% of that. And every comedy club has a 2-drink minimum. So a minimum of $50 a person, basically is how much money they're making on that. And then they give a percentage to the comedians depending on who it is, whether it's 90% or 50%. And then that's how they run their business. So that being said, most of the time you got comedians who are just, you get walk-ups or people papering the room. My show sold like 70 tickets. There's 200 people. There's 130 people who were either offered free tickets or walked up and didn't know who I was. That's what you deal with. And that's why I'm running around and saying all this. I'm coming back to this. That's why you deal with sometimes shows where, man, I didn't sell that much, but there's also more people here who don't know who I am than know who I am. So now if I come out and I'm a little abrasive how I usually am, or I start making fun of the crowd, some people be like, who the fuck is this asshole just talking shit right off the top? that might come off like that. So I knew that going into the Phoenix show, and during the show, I was like, this crowd is a little difficult. I'm going to have to work my way around it. I'd said a bunch of racist shit, which is a joke, but sometimes comes off as really racist. I'm learning through the process. Either way, I remember thinking, tight crowd, because as I was rewatching my set, I say a few times, I go, all right, this crowd is a little tight. You know, I could just feel that it was like I wasn't connected with fully everyone in the room. So that being said, I rewatched the video and I go, wow, I did bad. But in my head, I got off stage and I was like, that was awesome. I did good enough for what the situation was. When I rewatched it, I said, I cringed. I was like, this is not that great. So the point being, when I was talking to Anthony, I go, we all think we're at some sort of level that is magnificent to ourselves because that's our comedy palette. My comedy palette is 13 years of experience in the comedy world. I lived here 13 years ago and I started stand-up. Tried it a couple times, but really started in September. So September will be 13 years of doing stand-up comedy. My palette is watching comedy at open mics from the way I did it and then seeing my favorite comics go up in clubs. And now I'm going up in clubs with all the big comics. And I don't watch them that much, but I'm aware of what people are doing or what they have done. But I've only been in the world for 13 years. So I do have a taste a little bit to be like, I've seen that before. It's not special. Or he's got a long way to go. Or this guy's great. He's got something. I have a little bit more of an understanding that I can even identify when a comedian's been doing stand-up for 30 years. Imagine what his palette is and what he's seen. Imagine what he would see even with me. Even I would look like a schmuck to him probably. And I don't mean schmuck like in an insult way like he sucks, but I'm just saying there's a level of confidence on stage that you cannot fake. And I could watch a comedian go on stage and guess about how long he's been doing stand-up comedy. If he's a professional and he's good at it and he does it every day and he does weekends, or if he's 5 years in and he does shows around town, I can kind of, guess how long he's been doing comedy because of my comedy palette. So that being said, the whole point is when you're 5 years in, 6 years in, you think you're ready. You think like, dude, I had one of my best sets. I'm really good. I'm ready for this. I'm ready for that. I could be on that lineup. I can be on this lineup. And the reality is you really aren't ready for any lineups until you literally don't give fucks. And I think that takes a long time for most people, but there are examples of people who don't give a fuck very early on. And a prime example is how you react to a bad set. If it brushes off your shoulder, you're close to it, I don't give a fuck. If you don't have any more bad sets like I didn't think I did in Phoenix, you completely don't give a fuck. And you're completely just in your own world. But if you're thinking about a bomb and it hurts you, you have a decade to go. You have a long way to go. I think it was Chappelle on Rogan. He said, I won't pay attention to anyone under 30 doing comedy. And Fahim brought it up. I was talking about it with Fahim. We're hanging out. And whenever I hang out with Fahim Anwar, who's one of the greatest stand-up writing stand-up comedians, the way he can come up with a bit. You know, again, it's an art. There's so many different styles. Like if you walk into a museum of art, you're going to see 18 different paintings and they're all different and you'll like all of them in some different ways. Fahim, at the way he can process an idea and write a punchline and tag it up and make it a full bit so quickly, is at a level that is genius. Is at one of the best levels you can possibly do, you know? So when we hang out, one of the biggest things we do is talk comedy, and it's never old. We just pick up and we like to talk and we like to observe and we talk shit. Every comic talks shit. We talk about what we don't like and what we do like and how that's cool. And hey, why this is happening and why that's not happening, and what can we do to make each of ourselves better at certain things. And one thing he said, we were talking about, like, it's so true. If I can't even pay attention to somebody if they're not even in their 30s doing stand up. And I thought about it the other day because I'm hanging out with some of these younger guys, and they remind me of myself. They remind me of myself, how I'm a little eager and I'm like, I'm ready, I can do it. And then I think about like how it's not even life experience. Like, what is my life experience? I've had the most life experience in the last 4 years of my life. The last 5 years, I've really had the most impactful life experience. But it's nothing that hasn't been crazier than other people that might have experienced that in their 20s. So why am I saying what I'm saying, Michael? It's because there is something about you that you learn, and you process things differently with age and experience. And that is unteachable. And it's called wisdom, right? With older people, you meet a 55-year-old, he's seen things, there's habits. When you're in a relationship, you see things that resemble things or remind you of things from previous relationships, and then you identify why they work or why they don't work. It's kind of like Tom Brady. Why was he so successful from 41 to 45? He had a Hall of Fame career from 40 to 45. He started playing at 24. From ages 24 to 34, that 10 years was not even comparable to his career from age 40 to 45. And that's because he's seen so many defenses and so many plays, and he recognizes things that he's seen over and over, that he goes, oh, I know how this is going to turn out. I know what's going to happen here, that he can identify and process things quicker and understand them and come at it from a different angle, right? Kind of like stand-up. So at 24, how would have I processed life experiences? A little differently, but with a little bit more immaturity, surprisingly, but also with less understanding of other things that have happened in life. So I don't know if this is making sense, but there's something there that you can't fake. And it's the experience and wisdom that, even if now, let me play devil's advocate and be like, well, what if somebody started stand-up comedy at 34? It's late, right? And they grind and grind. Well, then I'm just going to look at their persona on stage is just going to be very young and not confident yet. But their thought process about what they want to talk about, or what they think is funny, is definitely going to be a little bit different, and I think a little bit more polished than if you were 24 or 22 or 23, because you have a little bit of the life experience. So it's kind of something that is not even, it has nothing to do with stand-up. It's about just being an adult and living life and experiencing life from different forms. Like, I've been in love 4 times. I've had my heart broken multiple times. I've had friends die. I had a parent die. I've had dogs die. I've been to different countries. I've been in many different arguments. I've seen different cultures. I've seen horrible things. I've seen great things. I've seen beautiful things. Just so many things that you either numb it, or you process it, or you reject it, or however you deal with things really shape and form who you become as a person. But I also think genetically we all become a form of what one of our parents is, inevitably, with a little bit of the experience sprinkled in. No matter what kind of life experiences happen, if you take someone who has never met their dad, and then you bring their dad back into their life, and you shoot them, and the dad is 70 and the guy is 40, and you recorded them interacting and meeting each other for a whole day, and you watch the video, there would be a lot of similarities. So there's something genetically there that you are gonna be. There's something genetically about your personality and about the way you do process life experiences, right? So there's something about that I think is interesting. But as an adult, I think that is something you can't teach your process. Like when I'm 45, what will I be at 45? I'll be a 19-year-old comedian. So I'll know how to turn my life experiences into bits easier and quicker, which is what you don't know how to do in your 20s because you've only been doing it for such a little time, but you also don't have that life experience. So I think that's why Chappelle had said that on Rogan's thing. It was like, if somebody is under 30, I can't even pay attention to their comedy yet because I know that there's nothing they can be saying of importance. But there are historically some comedians who were very inspirational and successful in their 20s. Not so many white males, maybe black males, because they came from a world where they had to grow up quicker. But I also think that's a different time. There's not a lot of comedians you see on TV or Netflix that are selling out theaters at a very young age. I think one of them right now is Matt Rife, is probably one of the younger ones now. But a lot of the other big comedians you know around the country who are selling out, who are huge, Sebastian, Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura, Bill Burr, Louis, all of these guys are over 45 years old. So something to think about. So that being said, you never are as good as you think you are in comedy. Because even now, I'll look back on what I'm doing right now 10 years from now and cringe at it. And what's funny is these young guys, and I follow them, and I know they're doing it because it's what their business is pushing, but it's not going to pop for them. They're putting out clips, and it's not going to happen because there's that part that you can't fake that even a normal human can look at a clip and be like, this is funny, and I like it, but I can see the difference between him and Andrew Schultz or him and a professional comedian. So now you're putting out clips and you're letting people see the difference between you and the best. That's the problem with what's happening in social media is everybody's putting out clips. And they're working for people. And I think they're working for a lot of people at my level who've been doing comedy a while, who are able to, like, I can do an hour in my sleep and then I can hold a room together for an hour. And there's a skill behind that. Whereas you got a lot of comics out here doing, like, I got to do crowd work so I can get clips. And then you go to a show and there's 500 people and you try to do crowd work in the front row. The people in the back of the room are going to get pissed. You know, that's a thing. And also you got to have bits and be able to work the room. So for an hour and be very entertaining and not drain yourself out. So, I mean, you can't do that if you're just starting out because that's another thing you can't fake. You might think you have an hour of joke. You might be like, I could stand on stage for an hour and talk for an hour, but are you going to keep them engaged and entertained for an hour? That's a different thing. So I think when people watch these clips of these younger guys, there's a reason I haven't seen a younger comic really pop off with clips on Twitter or Instagram that hasn't been doing it for at least 10 years. You know, there might be like one occasion, but even Matt Rife blowing up, he's like 12 years in. He started a year after me, came to LA a couple years after me. He's been doing it a long ass motherfucking time. So the guys who it is working for have the material, and I think people see it. They have the cadence and the confidence that their clips go more viral and people follow it more because they relate to them more. And as opposed to these younger guys doing things that, and I don't think they shouldn't do it. You know, I think it's good to do sporadically, but we have a generation of comedians, especially in LA and New York, chasing followers. And this is temporary. And I know Louis talked about this on Chris DeStefano's podcast, I think. But they're talking, they're chasing the social media game, and it is bad for the business, because I went to Austin and I saw a group of young comics all kill it with funny jokes and funny bits, because they're not chasing the followers. They're chasing the blueprint to getting in with Rogan, which I think is a smarter business plan and a better one for the long term. Because again, this is temporary. In 15 years, it will not be about posting clips on TikTok and Instagram. It will be something else. But if you have 15 years of stand-up jokes that you wrote and you know how to perform an hour for people and do all that, you will be worth so much money in that 15 years versus sticking to doing crowd work and not doing bits because you're chasing the followers. What can you stand for? At the end of the day, going back to Fahim, what we always talked about is like, regardless of where social media goes or where this wave pushes us, you know, it was with podcasts, Vine, Instagram, TikTok now, you can never take the skill away of being able to kill for an hour. That is a very rare skill. To kill for an hour in front of a room full of 300 people is something that less than thousands of people can do. And it's something that is worth money and that will be worth more and more money as time continues, because comedy is growing bigger than it ever has. It's growing how the NFL keeps growing and other things grow. The NFL's growing huge. It's huge. I don't know if baseball is still growing or basketball is growing. Comedy is also expanding. It's becoming a worldwide thing. It's bigger. It's in more countries than it ever has been before. There's more people outside of America watching comedy. There's more foreign comedians now than there ever has been. There's people doing comedy podcasts about comedy that don't do stand-up comedy. That's like what people do with sports shows. Now we have stand-up comedy shows. You literally have people on YouTube making shows talking shit about comedians for clickbait. I mean, there's literally a guy on YouTube who makes clips literally just shitting on Brendan Schaub. That's all his YouTube is. Isn't that crazy? So that's how big comedy is. So for the younger comics chasing the thing, it is bad for business, because you have these young comics who are writing bits in Austin. And when I was there, it was the best young comic pool of young comedians I had seen since I started here, because that's what was here. I felt like that's what was in LA. I feel like LA had the best pool of young comedians for a while, because everybody wanted to be a writer on a show, and they want to be good on Twitter, and they were writing bits, and they wanted to have punchlines, and writing on a TV show was a way to make a lot of money. And now you got comedians in Austin who are like, I want to be so funny that Rogan's like, you have a great set, because he sees what's going on. He knows what's bullshit and what's not bullshit. So if he thinks you're great at joke writing, he's a comedy savant. He's seen it all. His palette is so big. He's seen it all. So when he sees something, if it's unique to him, it probably is. So that little blueprint of like, hey, if I perform well, I can be a regular at the mothership. And if I'm a regular at the mothership and I keep killing it at the mothership, I can also be invited to be on Joe Rogan's show, which is Johnny Carson or Jay Leno or David Letterman of today. And that could springboard my career to being in comedy clubs and selling out comedy clubs for 6 shows a weekend for those 25 weekends a year, as we call it all back, and it's not being papered, because I have a fan base, because they love my point of view. And how do they love your point of view? Because of your bits that you wrote about. Because when you write a bit is a group of jokes put together in the same theme. Jokes are different from bits. Every bit has about 4 or 5 jokes. Infinite jokes. There's no rule. But a bit has a bunch of jokes. So when you create a bit about a subject, it's your point of view. You know, back in the day, it would be your observation. But now it's it's funny because your character who you've become with life experience and the way you process things, because you're in your 30s, this is how you experience everything. That's when you become a character. That point of view is what people fall in love with. And that is why they come to see you. And that is why they want to follow you, because they're like, I like the way this guy thinks. I like the way he thinks. You don't go to a comedy show because you think he's funny. Oh, that guy's funny. You really go watch someone because you're like, I like the way he thinks about things. It makes me laugh. The way he thinks makes me laugh. Oh, no, that was a funny clip. Hey, man, that was a funny clip. Move on. I'll follow him. That was a funny clip. No, I like the way he thinks. That will last you forever. I like the way he thinks. If a fan is saying that, I like the way your brain works, you ever have that compliment, younger comics? That's a real one. Oh, I think you're funny? Get out of here. Oh, you know what I think? I like the way you think. That stuff's worth $1 million. You get 1 million people that like what you think, you're set. That's what you want. Another thing, going back to Bryson, I brought up Bryson. Okay, so another thing about Bryson, I was telling him, I was like, listen, bro, I want to give you 2 notes. And this goes to a lot of younger comics. There's nothing to figure out. You'll never figure it out. You'll never be at a place where you're like, yeah, I figured it out. I'm done. You'll never say I'm done. You will if you're not a real comic. But if you're a real comic, you'll never be like, I'm done. That's perfect. I guarantee you, if you ask any comedian who's ever shot a special, have any of them ever said, oh, I never thought of a new tag for that bit. Like, I'm done. Were they ever at the end of going, it's done. I completed it perfectly. I guarantee they were like, I just had to shoot it because I was over this material. But they never were really satisfied fully. I guarantee you they've thought of funnier things that could have been added to their hour after they shot it. I guarantee it. I guarantee you if you ask any comedian, he'll be like, oh, yeah. A month later, I remember thinking, oh, imagine if I had that. I could have added it to the joke for the bit, but it's too late now. But even that, they're never like, oh, I figured out comedy. You're never going to figure it out. You're never going to figure out how to be funny. You just evolve into the comedian you're going to be. Inevitably, you're going to be the comedian you're going to be if you just keep going and you keep taking chances and you keep trying things. But you're never going to figure out, oh, this is how I'm going to be. Because you evolve into a different comedian every year. You're a different comedian from what you were a year before the last. You are. I never understood something when people like, oh, I found my voice. You would hear that when I was younger. Comics would be like, well, I know my voice now. What is your voice? I found my voice. What the fuck does that mean? That was the most frustrating thing for me ever. When people were like, oh, you got to find your voice. What do you mean find your voice? You mean I got to be myself? That's what that is. You mean, oh, I got to be myself. That just takes years of going on stage and ripping off all of your influences. You're not finding your voice. It's that should be taken out of the comedy encyclopedia because that can mess someone up. Because then they're going to start searching and trying to figure something out and be like, who am I? No. You are just going to be who you are, and that's your voice, is when you finally become who you are, which takes so long. Nobody finds their voice so early. Obviously, Chappelle was Chappelle when he was 21. So there are exceptions, but you're talking about one of the greats, okay? But you're not going to, find your voice. I hated that. You're going to be who you are. You're going to be yourself. When you're yourself, that's your voice. When you are being yourself all the time, you're an extension of who you are on stage, off stage. That's the reality of it. So stop trying to figure it out. Don't try to figure out anything. What you want to do is relax. You got to get relaxed, and you can't pretend to be relaxed. You can't pretend to be confident either. You cannot fake the confidence. You can't do that. You got to stop trying. You got to stop trying. When you try to be funny, it's inauthentic. And the number one thing in comedy, if I had advice for comics, be authentic. Be authentic in every single moment. Be present in the moment. And I do it all the time. I fail every single time I'm on stage. Every single time I perform, I say something and it doesn't work and I get a laugh. Every single time, because I'm present in the moment. There's not a set I can't watch where I say something and it's too much, it's too far, it's not funny, it's horrible, it's racist, it's mean. All the time. It happens because I'm taking chances constantly, because I'm like, let me just, that's how I think. I don't know. And it's not that I won't say it again, because maybe in that moment, because you don't know every moment perfectly. So I take chances. And in the moment I go, oh, I always say what I'm thinking, and it gets a laugh because I'm being present in the moment and I'm being authentic. And it's priceless. If you're authentic, you'll never bomb. You'll never bomb. Because if you're not doing something right, you're paying attention because you're being present, and you'll go, okay, well, we're not connected here. People are going to laugh because they're uncomfortable. They want you to succeed. And you're calling out what is going on. You're like, I don't know why we're not connecting. Instead of being upset about this or defensive, which you see a lot, I'm going to take it in and I'm going to take it on the chin and go, well, maybe I should have got that degree. Whatever. You're going to say something that you think is funny in that moment because you understand what's happening, because you're being authentic. So, I don't know. I don't know how you're going to get clips out of this episode, Matt. Good luck with making some clips from this. I don't know what will be funny with the piano music in the background, but I feel good about this episode. That was a fun episode. I don't know how long I've been doing this, but I think that I feel good. That's this week's episode, and maybe we'll do more from the couch area, and maybe we'll do more later with people, with other guests. I got to get another camera first. It's raining. I wonder if you guys can pick up the rain. Let's talk about the rain for a second. It's rained more days than it hasn't rained in LA for the first time in my history of LA. I've been, like I said, 13 years. It's never rained this much in LA in all the years. It's definitely rained more days than it hasn't rained in LA this year. And that's like living in Seattle. And for that reason, I want some of my money back out. I want California to give us some money back, because we pay so much in taxes, and everybody always says, well, it's the weather. Well, it's the weather. Give us some of our money back. Let's get some money back. Let's get a fat check. Let's get a fat check from Newsom. Hey, Newsom, $2,000 next month to all of the LA residents. We deserve it. You know how many wet socks I've had this year? You know how many times I've had wet socks and dealt with it for the rest of the day? Whatever. I'm not going to be one to complain about rain and then cut up a clip and post about it. I just wanted you guys to know that. Thanks for watching. If you are a subscriber, we appreciate it. I just put out another crowd work clip from Laugh Factory San Diego. It's up right now on my YouTube page. It's called The Best of San Diego. Check that out. If you haven't, check it out. Like it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Comment under those videos. It helps the algorithm a lot. One comment like that is like giving me $1. You never know how far it can go, and it can help the algorithm, especially on all the stand-up videos. If you haven't watched, some of my other crowd work special that I put out, and watch the previous other episodes. Like I said, commenting, even if it's hi Mike, good to see you, checking in. I'll heart it. I'll like it. We want to get to a point where I just shut off all the notifications from YouTube, like I have with every single other app. Okay, so I need that help on the YouTube. So like, subscribe. If you're listening, I appreciate the listens, guys. I hope you're having a great day at work. I hope, or at the gym, wherever you're listening, or your hike, whatever you're doing. If you ever have any other suggestions for topics you want to talk about, or you want advice, feel free to email at lenoci.michael@gmail.com. I'm always here for you, and I have fun talking to myself sometimes. And I will also continue to do episodes with Mark always, but, I do enjoy this as well, and I know some people like the feedback of me just rambling by myself and seeing where it goes. We will see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Good night, and have a wonderful week.